Mandy.
I am Dave.
I am Kirk.
So we're here doing another reaction. Now, this is a specific reaction. It's an Andy's request. It's the band Napalm Death and The World Keeps Turning. Andy, why are we checking out Napalm Death and The World Keeps Turning?
Okay, we are involved in a different YouTube channel, different project, whereby we are trying to establish contact and arrange meeting with some of our musical idols. One of my idols that I'm reaching out to and hoping to secure an interview with is Barney Greenaway, vocalist, long-time vocalist with Napalm Death. This particular song is from the early 90s, I believe. Classic Napalm Death lineup and one of my favourite tracks.
Okay, well, we'll go check it out and we'll see what we think of it as well. As always, no pausing, no talking through it. We'll share thoughts and feelings at the end. Let's go check out some Napalm Death and The World Keeps Turning.
World keeps turning!
Okay, I think I should go first as the non-deaf person. Okay, I like the track. It just reminded me of going to Cannibal Corpse in the 90s at the Marquee in London. What I loved was looking at how close the band is to the audience. The fact there's no barrier, there's no security guards stopping you from getting on stage and stage diving. I loved that about the 90s. And even like the medium-sized venues, you didn't get those barriers. It was only when you went to Brixton Academy that you had to get barriers, but you could go and see amazing bands and get on stage and do twirling stage dives. You'd climb up the side of the cabinets and throw yourself off. And it wasn't about the groove. It wasn't about the melody of the song. You weren't looking for a hook. It was about just letting yourself go and letting the energy of the track and just having fun in the pit. And I had some of my favourite gigs going to bands like Cannibal Corpse and Same Al and stuff like that, where I'd walk out of there with a broken nose and a cracked rib and think, this is the best night of my life. This is brilliant. and I loved it. Couldn't tell you what any of the songs were that I heard, but I know that I really enjoyed myself, and that's what I got a real nostalgia by watching this. There was, weirdly, we've mentioned Sepultura multiple times in videos of recent, and when it does that breakdown riff where it goes nice and like just chuggy, I just suddenly was like, oh, that sounds really like Sepultura, like off of like Beneath the Remains album. But it was just because everyone had that kind of style. That was a real kind of common riff element that people were doing. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the most influential bands in the history of metal, certainly extreme metal and the pioneers of grindcore. My first introduction to Napalm Death, I remember buying the Peel sessions on vinyl, and I got it for £4 or £5, something like that, and that would have been 2001. And it's one of the few moments where I put music on and laughed at it because it was just so extreme. Even to this day, that's probably the heaviest album ever recorded, ironically, in a BBC studio as well. And it was great that they were getting exposure and knocking the Pixies and Sonic Youth off the top of the indie charts. That song, fantastic. You're definitely right about Sepultura, because they came up together. Napalm Death, Sepultura, and Death were all trading tapes. They were aware of each other before they all got their record deals. And that was a seminal year, 1987, wasn't it? For certainly for two of those three bands. You could even argue Sepultura. I love the energy. I've seen them live at a festival, and Barney, to this day, I would say he's even more aggressive live now. He looks great on stage. That song, did you listen how crisp those blast beats were as well? Nothing lo-fi about them, but it still sounded, obviously they were live and raw. So Andy, was that the 90s period? Was that from the 93 album Utopia Banished,
Yeah, and what I liked as well for that particular song, there was an EP version or a single version, which very, very slightly different, but still, still like both versions very much. I mean, David threw me a bit of a curveball there. I was thinking it was going to be the music video, which is basically live footage cut together with the usual shaky camera, black and white images of churchyards. I'm guessing put in their videos back in those days. But yeah, I mean, I didn't think the recorded version could be played any faster. So I'm not saying that before. That was even faster than the studio recorded version. Really, I mean to say, I think there's catchiness. You said about hooks, David. I think that song has hooks. I can't say every Napalm Death or every extreme metal song has hooks, but like you say, when you're at a show and you've got that energy and you want to get up and do the crowd surfing and the stage diving, you're not listening for the individual musicianship, but there is extremely high musicianship in that band. A lot of people think, oh, that's just a row, particularly if they just concentrate on Barney's vocals. But if you sort of, shut your ears to that and hear what Jesse Pintado and Mitch Harris are actually playing, they are incredibly complex riffs. And as I say, that's my favourite sort of period of Napalm Death, and that is one of my favourite tracks. I couldn't see that particular live performance, so I hadn't seen that before.
I think it's important to stress just how good modern Napalm Death is as well. The last two albums, Apex Predator and the one from 2020, they're even more experimental, and they've brought in a really ugly industrial sound as well, haven't they? But whenever I listen to Napalm Death, I'm always thinking, other than Discharge and the influence they had on metal, and you could argue Slayer, they were the first, weren't they, to really bring in hardcore with extreme metal. They were almost doing death metal before it was a thing, weren't they, because of the speed and obviously the vocal approach. But it's clear hardcore punk, isn't it? The origins of the band. You could even say Napalm Death are a punk band. They always have been in spirit. And listen how loud the bass is in the mix as well. But obviously they're famous for pioneering the blast beats. I know people will say Repulsion were the first to do it. No one will argue they're the first grindcore band. I mean, Andy, would you still call them a grindcore band, Napalm Death?
It's difficult, and I mean, you touched on it. The last two albums, they've always had experimental, but the experimental passages and even whole songs, but even more so now. I mean, sort of essentially, they are a grindcore band. So they are Napalm Death, so influential. Even you could ask the average man or woman in the street, they probably would have heard of Napalm Death, because they have sort of flouted with the mainstream media as well, haven't they, over the years? I can remember.
And through no compromise whatsoever, which is so impressive, isn't it? I mean, I know they were a bit of a joke on which was a Craig Charles show in 1989 for the Experiment to Obliteration era album, and they'd play You Suffer But Why, and he's saying, is that it? It takes longer to count in the hi-hat than the actual song, doesn't it?
And who can forget Ed Miliband having Barney Bruno in the Radio 2 studio? trying to do that death metal.
Oh yeah.
Spherical. Check that out if you want to give yourself a laugh. Ed Miliband interviewing Barney Greenaway.
I think I love the bit where, because they were in Ace Ventura, weren't they?
No, that was Cannibal Corpse.
Cannibal Corpse. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Jim Carrey did mention Napalm Death, though.
That's it. Yeah, I like it when he's talking about, like, I'm really getting into this band. He does his whole impression of it.
There we go. Another foray into the mainstream media. Jim Carrey on some chat.
Some Jim Carrey. Anyway, there we go. Napalm Death and the World Keeps Turning. Great track. Well suggested, Andy. If you like this video, though, please do subscribe, click the bell icon, like and share. We'll see you on a video sometime very soon. Take care.